What's up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another brand new Pokemon Sword and Shield VGC Crown Tundra video. Today I'll be bringing you guys a video discussing Hail teams and their place in the metagame and whether or not they'll ever really be viable. And yeah, this is actually something I actually have a lot of interest in because it was weird. I started playing VGC super competitively in 2017, and that was in a time where Hail was actually sort of viable, and I'll get into that later on. But it seems that it's fallen off slowly over the years and become less and less viable, so I want to discuss what I think it takes to build a viable Hail team and how viable they'll be overall. So if you guys are interested in that, do me a favor, leave a like in the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because I'll be bringing you guys some daily Pokemon Sword and Shield VGC content. Also, I really appreciate the support you've been giving me on the videos lately, guys. I've been doing double uploads, and I guess it's been paying off. So yeah, you guys have been absolutely killing it with the likes and the subscriptions. We're well on the road to 20,000 subscribers, so that's amazing. And yeah, what I've been doing basically is like the initial video is usually going to be a discussion video like this, or a team builder, or a showdown live. And the second video is usually me laddering on the actual game and just playing, you know, ranked competitive battles. So let me know what you guys want to see in future videos in terms of discussion, so I don't run out of content. Because eventually I will, I'm certain. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So Hail has always been very interesting in the fact that it is a very difficult terrain to play against very difficult weather to play against if you do not have things that are immune to the hail, because your focus sashes start going away, you take chip damage at the end of each turn, and the only things that are actually straight up immune to hail are safety goggles Pokemon, overcoat Pokemon, and of course ice types. So that is the positives of hail. It's very good for hyper offense. The negatives of hail pretty much go on forever. For one, all the Pokemon pretty much have to share an ice typing. All of the Pokemon are extremely frail because of that ice typing, because ice is weak to what, like steel, fighting, rock, fire, a lot of things. Like everything hits it for super effective if it has like one coverage move. So there aren't many things you can switch in defensively. However, over the generations, we've received more and more hail tools when it comes to, you know, viable Pokemon. We have more overcoat Pokemon, more hail setters overall, more type combinations when it comes to ice. So we have some interesting tools here. But what I want to start off with is hail setters, because the main part of hail teams is getting the hail on the field. So the hail setters over the years we've had, I believe it all started off with Abomasnow. And Abomasnow is a very mediocre hail setter in my opinion. Its stats are very middling, it has a very poor defensive typing. While it does have some pretty decent coverage in grass and ice, it does leave a lot to be desired pretty much everywhere else. With Mega Abomasnow, it was a little bit more viable since it was an absolute threat under Trick Room. But this guy is just kind of mediocre overall. Then we got Aurorus, which had the ability Snow Warning, but I think Refrigerate is better overall. Aurorus is able to set up Hail with Snow Warning, spam Blizzard, but once again, its stats are very middling. It is kind of bulky with that high HP, and it could be somewhat viable as a weakness policy Dynamax Pokemon, but once again, extremely weak to steel moves, fighting moves, ground moves, a lot of things hit it for super effective, so it isn't that great. In 2017, with the release of Pokemon Sun and Moon, we actually got Alolan Ninetales, which I believe by far is the best hail setter we've ever seen. It is very fast at 109 base speed. It speed ties with Kartana. Offensively, it isn't really anything to write home about, but it has access to Aurora Veil, which is very good. Aurora Veil is an extremely useful tool on hail teams because, like I said, hail really lacks those because it's so hyper offensive, it really lacks the defensive tools it needs to succeed. So Aurora Veil is able to deal with that sort of by cutting the damage to all your allies for a couple of turns, and with Light Clay you can extend it to almost the entirety of a VGC match, which is super useful. And yeah, like it's actually really cool. It's able to spam Blizzard, has great coverage with Fairy and Ice. It also has access to some pretty annoying moves like Encore, or if you're really annoying, you can run Blind Hypnosis, which is never fun to play against. But yeah, I think that overall, 90% of the time you'll want to go with Ninetales when it comes to a hail setter. But when it comes to hail abusers, you really have no shortage of options. The only thing is, all of those options have been pretty mediocre in years past, except for in 2017 with Alolan Sandslash. Now, Steel and Fairy cover each other extremely well naturally, because, you know, they both resist dragon moves. Steel types are able to hit Fairy types for super effective, as well as rocks, other ice types. What else does hit? Fairy types, I already said that. But It's a very good offensive Pokemon. Steel and Ice have a lot of offensive synergy. It also has great coverage with Earthquake. So in 2017, you would see like Life Orb, Sandslash abusing Hail next to Alolan Ninetales. But the reason I think it was so viable, and even then it only saw like a mild success, was because Alolan Ninetales and Sandslash were really good Pokemon in a very limited Pokedex. You're only able to use Pokemon native to the Alola region. So Alolan Ninetales, while it did see success outside of Hail teams, just as a general, setter of screens, you did see a lot of Alolan Ninetales and Sandslash together. Fast forward a couple of years, you don't really see much of Sandslash, and here we are in 2020, or 2021 pretty much is the format. Now we have a couple of really cool options when it comes to using a Hail team, and I want to talk about them individually, especially Glacier. Glacier is such a cool Pokemon when you combo it with these other options, but let's start off with brand new tools, Arctozolt with Slush Rush. Having Electric and Ice in a single typing is really cool, because where previously you had to run like a mixed attacker with your physical ice types, like with Freeze Dry or something, to beat water types with your Hail team. Arctozolt now just has stab electric moves, and at that it has Bolt Beak, which covers a couple of things. You're able to hit flying types, which is nothing new. You're able to hit water types for a massive amount of damage, super effective. And because it has double speed with Slush Rush, and the fact that it hits 55 base speed, it hits 107 when you max it out with an Adamant Nature, you can run an attack boosting Nature and under Hail outspeed pretty much the most relevant fast Pokemon besides Regieleki and Pheromosa, which is Dragapult. That's a very high speed tier. You can outspeed Dragapult under Hail, which is really cool. You can hit it with a powerful Ice Cold Crash and one-shot it, or you can just spam Bolt Beak against the entire rest of the field and hit them for super effective damage if they're weak to Electric. So that's really cool. What I think is probably more devastating when it comes to building a Hail team, though, is Arctovish's new ability, Slush Rush. Same thing, except now you have Water Stab to beat things like Tyranitar. You can beat things like Excadrill. You can beat things, basically just Rock and Steel types. Like, while Steel only takes it neutrally, the main offender was pretty much Excadrill. You're able to beat that now reliably with Vicious Rend, and the fact that you can choice ban this thing pretty reliably because Vicious Rend hits like everything is really good. It's essentially just a Dracovish at that point. Choice ban Slush Rush Arctovish hits as hard as Strongjaw Dracovish did, so that's really cool. You can also spam Rock Slide with both of these Pokemon because they do get access to it, which if you want to do that and just be a horrible person and go for flinches, that does add another layer of things that you can go for when it comes to win conditions. But mostly it's just going to be clicking Vicious Rend and Bulk Beak with these guys, which is really good. I think that they do have potential, but it's the sort of potential where you have to look at it and understand, like, yeah, it's good, but I'm also running Hail, so there's a lot of issues with it. And I think the main issue with Hail is the fact that it only really works in a fast mode. Well, we now have an option when it comes to running a slow mode, and these Pokemon also are not ice types. I think that the combination of Uniclus and Indeedee Female are actually really solid additions to Hail teams. The main reason being is that Reuniclus naturally gets the ability Overcoat, which not only is immune to powder moves, but it also immune to the hail damage that you'll be taking, so you don't have to worry about that. It also combos extremely well with Indeedee Female because it's so absurdly slow. Indeedee Female already wants to run Safety Goggles, so it's going to be immune to the hail already, since like Safety Goggles is the best item for it at the moment. You can set up Psychic Terrain and set up Trick Room, and then just spam Expanding Force with these two Pokemon, which covers a lot of things. It covers the fighting types that Ice types don't want to deal with. So, and defensively, while these two typings, you know, Psychic and Ice aren't known very good for the defensive prowess, at the very least, they aren't weak to the same things. So that's a very big up for these two typings. And on top of that, it adds more depth to your game plan. It's no longer just, hey, go fast mode and attack things. Now you could run something like Reuniclus, Indeedee, Glacier, where you do have a fast mode in the front with, I guess, these guys. This isn't really an example team. By the way, let me know if you guys want me to build a hail team and try to make it as viable as possible. But in the back, you have one of the strongest Pokemon in the format, one of the best weakness policy users in the format, one that gets an attack boost every time it gets a KO, as well as very powerful special attacker under Psychic Terrain, spamming one of the most powerful moves in the game. It's so cool, and you can even use it as an anti-Trick Room measure if you want to go fast mode versus a hard Trick Room team. You can imprison the Trick Room. So these Pokemon are really important for that. I think that if you're going to run a successful Hail team, you pretty much need these guys in the team. So let me build like an example Hail team. This is what I think a halfway decent Hail team in 2021 would look like. Pretty much always start off with Alolan Ninetales. just because it's so good at setting the hail. You definitely want some kind of abuser. I think Arctovish is one of the better ones, if I could even type it. Arctovish is one of the better hail abusers. Indeedee female, very good for getting like the psychic terrain up as well as the safety goggles to set the terrain with your partner Pokemon. And Follow Me. Follow Me is so good in the format, as well as Helping Hand too, to pick up those a little bit more difficult KOs. Reuniclus, probably the best Trick Room setter for this team because of the Overcoat, because of the fact that it gets Expanding Force as well as Imprison to prevent Trick Room against opposing teams. And then from there, Glastrier is an obvious must because Glastrier is so powerful under Trick Room and it's a great abuser. Now your final Pokemon is pretty much up to you. You have a lot of options here. You could run a Scavalier for better, better type coverage overall. Now you have a Steel Bug type, which hits a lot more things, as well as an Overcoat abuser, and a hard check to opposing Glastrier. Opposing Glastrier are really annoying for hail teams because they do have the coverage to hit hail, whether it's Max Steel Spike from Heavy Slam or Smart Strike, whether it's Close Combat. So you have a couple of issues there. So if you run a Scavalier, which always underspeeds it, you now have another option of beating it, as well as a good Assault Vest user. Now the only thing is your entire team's still weak to fire. Arctovish kind of helps deal with that. If you can remove the fire type from the field, like if they have an Incineroar, if they have a Heatran, you can sort of play cheekily around that with Arctovish and try to KO it. But also, if you have a Scavalier under Trick Room, it does get access to things like Drill Run. It would usually run like Iron Head, I suppose. It is one of the few Pokemon in the format with access to Knockoff as well, which is a very useful tool. And Close Combat is good for Max Knuckle. So this, on paper, isn't a terrible team. Yes, it's obviously less reliable than other VGC 2021 teams. Like, I don't know, I don't really run standard teams, but like, I don't know, something like this. It could get tossed up by this, but you at least have a fighting chance of removing some of the most popular Pokemon in the format. Like if we look at Pikalytics, when it comes to Tapu Fini, where are you? Where's my Hail folder? This particular team, let's say that you ran, well, I guess with Tapu Fini in the format, maybe you could go with like, maybe you could go with Arctozolt in that case. So Tapu Fini absolutely destroyed by Arctozolt under Hail, one-shot by Life Orb, Bolt Beak. Landorus Therian, once again, Arctozolt, Oralola, Ninetales, or Glastrier. Incineroar, you don't have a water type in the format, or in this team now, but I suppose you could maybe run Arctovish. It's matchup dependent, so if they have Incineroar, it is a harder matchup, but you could, play around it with Glastrier, get that weakness policy off, go for Max Quake, Max Close Combat, whatever you need. Metagross gets walled by a Scavalier, also doesn't appreciate a Bolt Beak. Glastrier has a fighting chance against it under Trick Room. Regieleki under Trick Room and just gets beat hard. Glastrier, like I said, gets beat by a Scavalier, gets beat by opposing Glastrier if you end up in a positive situation. Cresselia and Moltres, neither of them really like dealing with the Scavalier since Assault Vest kind of walls them. Arctozolt is great for Moltres as well. Rillaboom, Kartana, a lot of these things just get beat by a well-constructed Hail team, but the trap that a lot of Hail players fall into is just making it 6 straight Ice types. You have to recognize that if you're running a Hail team, you can't just run 6 straight Ice types. And that's become easier and easier as the format has gone on because we've gained more tools. But I feel like if you're going to run a Hail team, it should be something along the lines of this. Just because you need to recognize that you need coverage on these things. But overall, I will say that Hail probably isn't the most reliable archetype. For one, I've listed all the issues already. It's frail, it shares a lot of weaknesses with Pokemon that are going to find a place in a Hail team. If you don't run Pokemon that are immune to Hail, you can't really run like Focus Sash and stuff. So there's a lot of issues with it, but overall I think there is some hope for Hail in the format, and I might try to build a team around it. Let me know if you want me to do that, just comment it down below. But yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about Hail in this format. Overall, I think it has some potential, but it's by far one of the least viable archetypes in VGC. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section down below. Leave a like in the video if you enjoyed or learned anything new, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.